and that's how Long Grain began. And it was a big restaurant. We opened that restaurant on the 27th of August 1999, and it was my 30th birthday, and we did 105 people on the first night. And then we never did less than 100, I don't think, the whole time I was there, and I was there for 13 years.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. After detailing the trauma of losing all business and the changes he needed to implement to survive in part 1, Marty Boetz reflects on his career and what the future may hold.
I think I've listened to a lot of the podcasts, and most boys and girls say, they just didn't want to continue on in school. And I was one of those people. I was naughty. I was really naughty in grade 10, and I was asked not to come back to the school that I went to in Brisbane. But I did want to. I did my work experience in year 10 in a hotel in the city, and my mum worked there in reception, and she was friends with the head chef, and he obviously knew me from doing the 2 weeks work experience there during the year, and he offered me a position as a kitchen hand. So when Christmas holidays finished, I started an apprenticeship as a chef. I started as a kitchen hand with white overalls on, 15 years old, not that great, but I got through that first year, and then I moved from the hotel into a very small restaurant in Brisbane, in Paddington, called Faces, and it was voted the best BYO in Queensland for quite a few years running while I was there. Not because I was definitely not the head chef. I was just an apprentice, and I was really proud to work there, but it was really hard. There was only 3 of us in the kitchen, and I probably worked 80 hours a week, and but we produced good food, and it was a good environment. Well, it was a good environment to learn, and I stuck it out until the end. And then I went to Europe and lived with my dad in Germany for a few years, and lived in London for a little while in between there as well, because I got called into the army by registering being back in Germany, because I'm a German citizen still, and conscription was still happening there. So I was 19, and I was working in Stuttgart in a little restaurant, and my dad rang me and said, "You've just been conscripted. You've got to go to the army." And I said, I can't go to the army. Me? No way. I mean, I could go now. Like, if I had to go to the army now, I'd do it. But I'm a lot older now, and I probably enjoy all those boys around me. But I would have enjoyed it then. But I was very scared. And so I packed up my little yellow Golf, and I was in Frankfurt with my dad, and I said, I'm going to drive to London. And I drove to London, and I had some friends living there, and I went and lived with them for a year, and got out of the draft. Dad said that I went back to Australia, and so I went and lived in London, and worked as a waiter over there. I didn't want to go into the kitchen because I wanted to have some fun, which I did. So that was that story, and then after that, I came back to Australia.
How did you end up in Long Grain?
I moved to Sydney when I was 20, and I was 21, and I had a little cafe in Oxford Street with a mate of mine, Terry, and did that for a few years, and then I worked at Zigolini's. Before then I worked at Zigolini's at Double Bay, and I had a really good friend there, Katrina, and I said, I really want to go to this restaurant called Darley Street Thai, and which was in Newtown, and so I went with her, and we went there again after that, and I met David Thompson through one of the waiters there, Martin. He said he knew that we were chefs because we were so interested in what we were eating, and I'd never tasted anything like that first mouthful of basil leaf with prawn and caramelized coconut and pomelo and lime leaves and lemongrass and all those flavors that I've never ever really tasted before, and I was so impressed. And I really thought to myself, I really want to learn this, because I just love the whole concept of sharing and all the flavors and stuff. Anyway, so David Thompson came out, met him. I wrote him a letter the next day saying, thank you so much for coming out and speaking to us. If there's any chance of me being able to do work experience in your kitchen, I'd really like that. So he rang. I left my phone number on the letter, and he rang me and said, you can start next Monday. So I worked on my days off at Darley Street on Mondays, and Ross Lostad was there at the time, and Michael Vermar, David King. It was a pretty full-on kitchen to go into. As a, I'd done an apprenticeship, but I was green. Like I couldn't julienne very well. My knives weren't as sharp as they need to be to cook Thai, or to do all the prep for Thai food. David Thompson was pretty full on at that time. He's full on, but he was really full on then, because it was, he'd just moved into Darley Street Thai in King's Cross, so it was full on, and we were busy all the time. And I really struggled at the beginning. Like the first 6 months was really hard, and I remember. Anyway, just the whole vision coming back to me. I was doing hot food or curries with David King, and I had to strain this palm sugar caramel sauce for whatever it was for. I think it was sweet fish sauce to go over deep fried fish. Anyway, somebody bumped me, and the hot sugar went over my hand, and so I burnt my hand quite badly. And then a waiter wrapped it up for me, because I had to do service. Like there was no going home, so I just wrapped it up, did the service. During the service, I also had to deep fry basil leaves that were dipped in a batter to go with a naan prick. So you had to dip them in this batter, stick them in the fucking wok with, the hot wok, obviously. And I don't know, I didn't do that. The mixture wasn't quite right. And every time I put the betel leaves into the hot oil, it'd just spit the oil would spit everywhere. And it went, this one time it just spat really quite a lot, and it went in my face. And I was just screamed out, fuck. I was like, this cannot be happening. And, the boys are just standing there laughing at me, the queen in the corner that she can't fucking handle the section. Anyway, I got through the service, and after that, I have to say that the respect was there. So I finally got in with them, but it took quite a long time, and they knew I was there for the long haul, and I got through it, and I improved, obviously. So yeah, I finished there. Sorry, I was at Darley Street for about a year, and then I went and worked in Italy, because Sean Moran had put an ad in the paper saying there's a job going. You have to have a European passport in Tuscany, and we need you for the summer, or it's for the summer season. So you leave sort of around Easter and come, and then until November. And I applied for it, and I got the job. And I sort of didn't want to leave Darley Street, but I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to travel. I'd never been to Italy before. And so I did that for a year. But David was really gracious, and he said to me, look, when you come back, your job's here for you. And that's great, because he said, I encourage you to go and learn. I want you to go and do this. This is really good for you. So he was very nice about that. So off I went and did that, and learnt a lot. Came back to Sydney after I'd finished, went back to Darley Street, and then David was talking about opening Sailor's Thai in, I think it was 95. And, I was still green, I was. And anyway, he had this dude hooked up for the head chef's job. And we all went to the taxi club one night and got quite pissed. And so David, me, Paul, a few other guys, we were at the taxi club. This is like 3 o'clock in the morning, ridiculous, and drinking moe. And David was very excited for because he was going to open this new restaurant and everything was going so well. And I was having a chat to him, and I said, you know what, I think I could be the head chef down there. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, I think I could. I think I could handle it. And he said, okay, you've got the job then.
Wow.
So the next day, I didn't think anything. We were all blind, right? And I rolled down the hill because I just didn't live very far away from the taxi club, and went to work the next day. Got to work at 1 o'clock, as I always do, early. And David King said, "You're mad," and I said, "Why?" He said, "You can't be the head chef." And I went, "What do you mean?" He said, "Thompson just told me that you said you want to be the head chef of Sailors and he's gonna give you the job." And I said, "Yeah, we did talk about that last night. That's right." And anyway, but I had to prove David King wrong, so I did it, and opened that restaurant. I'd never run a kitchen before. I was 25. I had Thai girls upstairs doing the noodle bar, that was a big head fuck for me, trying to talk to these Thai girls and make sure that they listened to me. Anyway, it all worked out because we sort of opened up there first, and I got in with them, and they liked me, so they did anything for me. And then I went downstairs, and we opened the main restaurant downstairs, which was a beautiful, beautiful room designed by Belly Kate and Halliday at the time. And yeah, everyone came, and we got a good review, and yeah, continued there for I was there for about a year or 2 years, and yeah, I just loved it. Loved that restaurant. And Alex Herbert was working with me part time, and then she was off to do her own restaurant, Bird Cowfish in Balmain, and I went and joined her for the first year of the life of that restaurant as a co-chef in her kitchen. Which I enjoyed, and but then it was her restaurant, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to cooking Asian food. So I went back, sorry, to Darley Street, and my job in the kitchen and at Sailors was taken. So I then did Darley Street Thai tuck shop next door in a little cafe called Box, which was like a little cafe right next to Darley Street Thai. So basically, I was in there. I went into the kitchen early in the morning. I did all the food, boxed it all up for takeaway, took it all over into Box, and then I sold that at night time. And I did that for about a year and a half. I'm just trying to race through. And so did that. And then during that time, I did some catering gigs through Darley Street. And a beautiful friend of mine who's not here anymore, Martin Cook, I did a lunch for he and a client in Wallara, and he was really impressed with the food that I was cooking. And he said, "Oh, I've got a gig for you if you're interested in New York. Friends of mine need a private chef, and on their property in Southampton. Would you be interested?" So I did that. And so I left Darley Street again. David wasn't happy with me this time. And I went off and went over to New York and worked for this couple for about a year. And then I came back and worked at I worked at the Jersey Cow in Wallara as a waiter. And I was trying to do a horticultural course at the time at TAFE, which didn't really work well for me because I didn't know how to use a computer. So I dropped out of there, and in that time met Sam, who I'd worked with years before at Zigalini's at Double Bay. And anyway, he said he was opening a restaurant with a mate of his, Rob, and would I be interested in helping them design a kitchen and just talk about, what their concept was, and that's how I got sort of involved with that. And I then sort of said, I think I'd do Asian food in this space. It's just such a big space. You need to do shared food. And I think Rob's concept was doing a mishmash of Japanese, Italian, everything. I said, look, that's not my forte. I think I just do all Asian food shared, and that's what that's what I proposed, and I did them some food, and they really enjoyed it. And then they said, "Why don't you become the head chef, and let's open this restaurant all together." And that's how Long Grain began. And it was a big restaurant. We opened that restaurant on the 27th of August, 1999, and we did. It was my 30th birthday, and we did 105 people on the first night. And then we never did less than 100. I don't think the whole time I was there, and I was there for 13 years.
Wow. What's your fondest memory of that restaurant?
Oh, we had fun. It was fun. Like, being able to see everyone when they came in the front door, and having lots of people around, and the cocktails, and I'd never seen a stick drink before, and the amount of limes and fresh fruit that we went through just in those stick drinks, and met a lot of really lovely people, and a lot of friendships were forged on those tables and in the kitchen, and it was a good place to work. I really loved that, and then replicating it in Melbourne was that was a chore. Melbourne was like having child number two, and child number two's got a totally different personality to child number one, and so that was hard to. I had to go and have some self-help there because I still am a control freak, and it just wasn't running as the other one did, and but I finally got it together, and it started, and it smoothed itself out. And so I'd worked half the week in Sydney and half the week in Melbourne for 7 years, from 2005 to 2013.
Well, it's a long way from where you are now with Cook's Co-op. But how are you feeling about the future? And is there any positives to come out of this traumatic year that you've had so far?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I believe that people will want to go and be out in the country, or I want to offer somewhere where people can go and relax and just feel calm. And that's sort of how I'm trying to make it work for me, because we're not going to be able to do large events. So I just want to do the sort of offer the produce boxes, just go for a walk around, go and have a look at the river, go and sit down under a tree, and come and eat food here, and just enjoy it. Come and share this experience with me when you can. And sort of, I think that's the only thing, that's what's sort of keeping me going at the moment, because I know that I can offer something really good. I just need the team to back me up, which I've got. I'm looking for a chef at the moment, so if anyone out there that wants to have a trade change, please contact me. And so I thought I'd just throw that in because that would be good. And yeah, it's special. It's a special place, and I think that it's worth sharing with people, and we'll need it, because if people can't travel, this is escapism, and I want to create an escapism. Like, I think Long Grain was an escapism for people as well. They walked into the door and it was a buzzing world, and you could go to the bar, and you could go to, and eat, and then you could go back to the bar and have another drink. And I remember when we first opened there, you could still smoke in restaurants, and the bar was very smoky, and the DJ was playing, and it was fun, and we need to have fun. We need to have a laugh. Everything's so serious.
Well, I think what you're offering up there will be a real lure for a lot of people to get in their cars, and as you say, they need to get out, and it is quite special, the area that you're in, mate. It's been amazing to hear your story. It's extraordinary what you've been through this year, but the fight that you've shown is also extraordinary. We're honoured to have you on Deep in the Weeds, mate. Keep in touch.
Can't do it without a good team.
Yeah.
Can't do it without a good team. And even though it's small, but it's very good. And I thank my team from the bottom of my heart, because it's been a challenge.
Well, mate, take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.